Hello everyone and welcome to Zpeaktures Productions, and today review will be on the Dunu Talos. You can see here this is the IEMs and this is the box itself, the Dunu Talos IEM. Now recently I went to China, Shanghai itself, and I wanted to buy some of their local IEMs there because if you were to buy the IEM in China, it is actually cheaper significantly. Just the listing price itself is about 20-30% cheaper than what you get on international sites. The thing is, of course, international sites, you still also have to add shipping, especially for me, which is from Singapore. And if you buy from the Singapore sites, they cost even more money. So by just buying in China, actually, it is a whole lot cheaper for me, about easily 30 up to even 40% cheaper compared to buying locally. Now, the Dunu Talos here is the cheapest I could find, and it was the first one I purchased. I even ordered it before I reached China. The good thing of China is because e-commerce is such a commonplace, hotels will actually allow packages to be sent to them even before you check in, as long as you provide booking number to them. And then they'll have you keep your parcels till you arrive, and the more I arrive, I get the Dunu Talos here. Now, the price of this, when I was purchasing it, was only 600 Chinese yuan or renminbi. That is somewhere around 85 USD. It is really affordable. Now, that being said, the normal price is like 900, so that will be closer to maybe 135 USD, which is still cheaper than what you see on like Linso. So the Dunu Talos in China is really a very affordable IEM. So for 600 RMB, no complaints. And let's see what's inside the box. Now, obviously, I already opened it up, so let me show you just the accessories. Now, there is the, I'll say as the various earbuds, ear tips here. And then there is the, this I didn't open up, but you can see that this is just the adapter. And then this is to clean the tips up. Now, let me open up and show you what's inside here. This is even more type of this is a square type of ear tips, you can see here. And the last packet here, I did open every single pack. This is another type of tip that's provided. So they actually provide 3 sets of tips for the Talos themselves. So it's quite a good amount of tips provided, 3 different types of tips, so you can try it all out. Then this is the Talos itself. You can see this is the earphone. I'll talk about the build quality later, but let me show you the cable first. This is the cable given. This is a braided cable. It also comes with the Velcro strap to actually hold the cables together properly, and it's written as Dunu, as you can see here. So the cable themselves has a little bit of memory, so just if I press it down, you can see that, you know, it just keeps a little bit of the memory here. The cable is, I would say, it's not the most flexible cable. It's a bit thick, if you ask me, for IEM, but it's very durable. I feel it can probably survive a beating. Other than that, it's pretty nice cable, no complaints with it. Now the head, which is this is a 3.5mm single-ended. This is not an exchangeable type, so you don't get the same as you get such as in the S12 Pro or the 510. You get the more interchangeable heads in the cable themselves. You don't get it for the Dunu Talos. Now the cable has the standard Y splitter here, and then it goes to the earphones. Now the earphones themselves, this is a hook to the ear. You notice that it holds the shape. There's some sort of a memory wire or plastic inside here that holds the shape of the earphones. And even if I bend it, it will just go back to the shape itself. And then this is a 2-pin 0.78mm. For the right side, there will be a red band. This is the left side. And even on the earphone, it does show you that this is the left side. I don't think you can see, but yeah, this is the left side and this is the left earphones, and you can just plug it in. Now this is not recessed, it's actually flat, so you can plug in most cables easily. I did notice that some earphones are actually recessed, so those are a bit more tricky. I'll talk about the earphone build quality a little bit later, but let's talk about the case first. This is the case. It's a hard crush-proof case. You can see it's actually really durable. It is quite big. I mean, compared to, let's say, the S12 one, the S12 case is slightly smaller, so this is actually quite big of a case. It's a nice texture, a cloth texture to it. and the zippers are really nice. It does have holdings that you can slot the IEMs in, and it doesn't like flip open and drop your IEM, so you can always open it up with one hand or two hands. Oh wait, can you open it with one hand? No, you have to use two hands to open. Open it up and you don't accidentally drop out, because it will hold nicely inside and just take out your IEMs out. So it's a nice touch. Now for the IEMs itself, you can see here, this is the IEM. It's fully made of metal, right? And as I said, this 0.78 millimeters connector. There's a switch here. I will talk about the switch later. And then there's a vent here. Now, the IEM is a bit thick. You can see this is quite thick, one fingertip thick. Now, if you compare to other IEMs, let's say you look at the S12 here, you notice that it is a good bit thicker than the S12. And what does it mean is that in comfort, it does affect some of the comfort stuff that I'll talk about in the next section. Then if you look at the tip itself, let me remove the tip. Now this is a tip. It's a nice golden tip. I can't screw it out though, so I don't think this tip is changeable. But you can see this tip itself. It has a nice groove, and the one thing about this groove is that I noticed that it's chamfered, so you can slide the thing in easily, but you can't pull it out easily because there's like a triangle shape like this. So you push it easily in, but when you pull it out, it actually hooks onto the plastic and prevents it from dropping out in your ears. So it's a good design. I mean, some of them were just like square. Some of them don't even have the reach and it gets stuck in your ear. That's bad. But this is pretty good design. Other than that, pretty much I think the build quality is as good as you get. Pure metal earphones, a bit weird of a design and a bit thick. So this is where comfort comes in. Now, this earphone doesn't have a very big, I'll say, barrel here, so it does go into my ear nicely, especially with a small sleeve like this, the small tip like this, it does go into my ear nicely. But because of its design, right, your whole earphone, the whole Dunu Talos IEM is held by the canal and the hook on top like this. This design here doesn't leverage or utilize the ear in any way to support the earphone much. So I would say as well, day-to-day usage is not much big deal, but if you do run, it does have a higher tendency to dislodge out compared to some other IEMs like the 武则天, which is more flat and molded to the ear shape so that the ear itself will actually stabilize the IEM inside the ear. Now, the next thing is that this is quite thick, as I said. So if you do want to sleep with the IEM, some people do. I do with some of my IEMs in the past. What will happen is that this thing sticks out of the ear, so you cannot sleep on top of the IEM itself. You feel like this 1-2 millimeter extra will actually press onto your ears and it's not very comfortable. Unlike the shower here, you see, if I was to put side by side, you can just notice how much more thicker this IEM is. It's a good, like, I think 2-3 mm thicker, and it does affect the comfort itself. Now, because it's not 2-3 mm thicker, especially at the joint here, if you were to use some wireless TWS or some cable which is a bit more stiffer, it will bend in a weirder angle, so that's something to note also. Now, I did say there's a switcher. So what does this switch do is that it enable you to toggle between pure planar mode and hybrid mode, where hybrid mode is the BA driver together with a planar will produce you the sound. But what will happen is that if you were to go in hybrid mode, it will increase the treble to such an extent I feel it's very discomforting or uncomfortable to me. So I do not like the hybrid mode, and for this review I'll just talk about pure planar mode because the hybrid mode just don't work for me. It's just too hot in the treble. I would say as for comfort level wise, this is not definitely the most comfortable IEM. I think among the IEMs I purchased in China, which is quite a few, this is the most uncomfortable one. Most uncomfortable among the IEMs. I think the SimGod E1000, the 武则天, the Showa, the Truth Ear, all is more comfortable than this IEM itself. So, well, I hope Dunu does improve the next generation of Talos a bit more in terms of its comfort. But okay, that's about it. So let's talk about the sound quality. Now, sound-wise, I would say as most of my review is done with the Apple dongle, and for a good reason. This IEM, if you put in USD, is going to cost about $160 if you buy it from an international site. You buy from Taobao, it's about $140. So $140 IEM, I don't think you want to spend more than IEM on the amplifier. I mean, there are $50 amplifiers itself, but the question is, does those amplifiers actually make a difference? Well, if you want to jump straight to the amplification section, you can just scroll to the back of the video. I'll put a bookmark there. But I'll just tell you that this guy here, the Apple dongle, does provide good enough sound quality. And if you do amplify it any further, you get very marginal improvement unless you are using a special type of amplification. And I'll talk about it in my amplifier section. But if not, most of the sound review is through the Apple dongle. And let's move on. So first, I would say as the tonality of this earphone, the overall timbre and tonality of this earphone is neutral bright. Just a touch bright. It is mainly a neutral earphone. The bass is balanced. The mids are balanced. The treble is just a little bit bright. And overall, it's very neutral sounding. Most of the instruments through this earphone sound very natural, very normal, which is good. I like it that way. And the bass is not overpowering anyways. Overall, very balanced and neutral earphone itself for tonality and timbre. Now, when it comes to soundstage, the soundstage of this earphone is not very big. It is outside the head, but it's definitely on the smaller side if you compare to the other planar IEMs or even some other IEMs such as the EA1000 for the dynamic drivers. This is not a very big soundstage sounding IEM itself, but definitely not small till it's inside your head. So I find that it's pretty okay. Now, when it comes to separation, I think the overall separation is quite good. The driver is very fast, very nimble, so it does separate nicely all the various instruments. And because of its slightly brighter tone, I would say as the separation, especially for drums and for instruments like violin, guitars and everything, the initial attack, which is a bit high frequency type, does have a very good separation here and does sound pretty good on the Talos itself. Now, when it comes to positioning, however, this is quite limited. The positioning is a left-right positioning. Now, soundstage isn't very wide already, but when you hear it and it comes to positioning, it's really left or right. Rarely there is much in between. So if the instrument was to move slightly, you really cannot hear the movement. And if the instrument was to play here and then shift to here slightly, you also cannot hear the difference. It's mainly a more broad left-right stroke. Maybe far left or mid-left, far right or mid-right kind of thing. So not the greatest in positioning itself. When it comes to details, I find it's very detailed. Overall, I think the details are very good in the mids and highs, especially the highs because it's a little bit more focused on the treble. The highs are very, very clear. And the mids also very, very clear. And then when it comes to the bass, I would say as the details in the bass can get a little bit muddy if there's too much bass. That can be improved with amplification, but only in one type of amplification. I'll talk about it in the final chapter of this video here. Now, when it comes to clarity, I think this earphone has very, very good clarity. In fact, when I listen to this earphone, every other IEMs that I purchase in this price point sound a little bit more veiled. Just a little bit more veiled. But that may be because of its overall neutral timbre and also a bit more focus on the treble itself. It gives this very open and clear sound without any veil and anything. So if you are the type that is into clarity, this earphone has tons of clarity. Now, let's talk about the bass itself. Now, the bass of this earphone, I would say is it does go deep, it does have texture, it does have impact, but the quantity is not a lot. So if you hear any bass heavy music sound, like, for my own soundtrack, like The Brave, or let's say Unravel, the bass is a little bit more subdued here on this earphone itself. But, this is very similar to what I get in headphones. A lot of the headphones also have very deep bass, but the quality of the bass is always not the best. So this gives me the same feel of a full planar magnetic headphones. Very similar signature to it. Now, when it comes to the mids itself, I would say the mids is very nice, very smooth, and very, very natural sounding. As I said, once again, this is the most natural sounding IEM. The guitars, the violin, the pluckings, and the strings really sound very natural here. I think I love instruments on this earphone more than other earphones that I purchased. Now, when it comes to the highs, this is where things get a bit hot. Now, the part of high mids, which is like the 3000 over hertz kind, where sibilance is, this earphone has some sibilance. And when you enter into high, it just gets a bit hot at times and a bit sizzling. This is very noticeable in the song called Shatter Me. Shatter Me has a lot of violins, a lot of vocals, and then female vocals that goes really, really high. And that is where it gets a bit sibilant with this earphone itself. But that being said, most other songs I don't notice it. It's only that few particular songs with a lot of these high mids and low highs and tons of these kind of instruments here, it gets a bit of sizzling, a bit hot at times. But if not, most other songs which are more balanced in terms of the instruments and placements, pretty okay to me. Only those two, only that particular song called Shatter Me that has this sibilant effect. The highs itself, however, is very natural sounding. I love how bells sound here. I love how the high-pitched string sound here. It always sounds very natural, very correct. And compared to, like, say, the S12, which I shown earlier, like this one feels very veiled, very plasticky sound for some reason. This sounds very nice and natural. For the highs and the mids, this is really how it is. And overall sound quality, if I was to put a description to this is the closest earphone you get to a planar magnetic headphone, something like the Aria Organic, Aria Stealth, or HG1000 series. The more neutral, bright sound with some bass, good impact, good texture, but not high in quantity. This is as close as it gets, at least for me, when it comes to comparing this to headphones themselves. Now, with that said, I think that the sound quality could be improved. There could be better texture. There could be just a slight touch more quantity. There could be cleaner impact. There could be less sibilance while still maintain the overall clarity. It's possible because high-end headphones can do it, and high-end IEMs do have such a quantity and quality too. These earphones still could have a better iterations in the future. So now we reach the last section, is on amplification. Now amplification is quite tricky. Now this is the Apple dongle, $10 amplification. So the question is, will better amplification give you better sound? Now this is the M17 here. This guy is well known to have very good amplification for his price, right? I would say as between the dongle and this, using the Talos, very minimal difference. What you get is slightly better body and a touch, I would say, as a more controlled bass and a touch more bass quantity, but it's just a touch. Very, very minor, very, very small. Doesn't change the sound signature much. If you ask me, if you were to upgrade from this to this, forget it, don't bother. And that's the reason why I would say, as for the Dunu Talos, it's probably not worth to invest in amplification, because the difference is so small between this and this that I just cannot imagine why you need a better amplifier to drive this. However, let's go one step above to further explain my point. Now, with the envelope, of course, I use my M17 as the DAC, envelope as the amp. And this is where there is a noticeable improvement. Now the emblem here, you can see, right, there is the voltage port. This is a voltage port. It is more similar to most other amplifiers, voltage based. And then there's a current port, which is to use a different technique of amplification to drive current in, only for flat impedance earphones and headphones. If you were to do a current on a non-flat impedance type of earphone headphone, you get some wonky sound. But you know, this is literally 2 amp in one, and it's very costly. One of these can buy 20 of these. So obviously, it's not something you will purchase just to drive the Dunu Talos. But that's it. The voltage out here gives a bit more improvement. It gives an improvement in positioning. So I said, right, the original Talos here with the Apple dongle only got left-right positioning, or maybe far left, mid-left, and center kind of thing. You know, it's very hard to get in-betweens. But with this voltage out, you do get a bit of better positioning. You get a little bit more in between. You can hear instruments move left and right a little bit. But it's still not like super clear, super clean. You also get better separations. There is a part of the song in the Wish from Mercury soundtrack. What happens is that there's these drums that constantly play at the background. Very soft. With the Talos and the Apple dongle, it just gets lost most of the time. The details and separation wise, no, it just disappears. While with the emblem voltage out, you do get to hear the drums better. You do get better separations between the bass instruments, and you can identify the drums a little bit better, just a touch better. Now, in terms of soundstage, there is a slight improvement, but it's very small, and even I cannot confirm that it is worth any form of improvement there. Other than that, it also gives a slightly better body, just like the M17, and slightly better bass. But if not, no, it doesn't sound like a huge improvement over the Apple dongle. Probably not worth the price. Now, the current mode, on the other hand, huge difference. If soundstage was like this, so how I usually imagine soundstage is when a song play, I'll use my hands to guesstimate a soundstage size. And the soundstage with the Apple dongle, let's say the song is like this. With the IEM current mode is like this. There's a huge improvement, easily 20-30% improvement in soundstage size. So that's really something I detect out of the IEM itself. And it also changes signature a little bit. The mids on the Talos is smooth and focused. The mids on the IEM current out is even smoother, but no loss of details, but it disperses itself a little bit more. So if you were to hear the Talos, if this was the mids, now the mids is like this. It's a bit bigger, but the soundstage of course improves significantly more. But that said, there is a little bit of dispersion in the mids, and some of you people may not like it. So that's something to note. And in terms of positioning, it gets even better. The positioning now, because of its wider soundstage and its more controlled positioning sound, you can actually hear instruments move even a little bit. You can hear it in the IEM itself. This is very apparent, like in Ultima, there's a moving bell. Very clear with this setup here. And then, lastly, when it comes to the details and clarity and separation, remember the drums that I talked about in the Wish for Mercury? With the M17 or the voltage out, they still get lost over time. With the voltage out, it gets a bit better, but it still gets lost now and then. With the current, it rarely gets lost except in 1 or 2 seconds in the entire verse, in the entire section of the song. So I'll say as the IEM does a great job in current mode to bring this to a higher level. Of course, that's if you like a dispersed mid sound, because some people may not like the dispersed mid. Some people may prefer a focused mid. So overall, that being said, everything I said just now is still a marginal improvement, because to start with, soundstage isn't very wide here. Positioning isn't that great. So all this improvement, yes, it does improve the Talos. It does bring Talos to the next level. But to spend $4,000 on an amplifier, this is a 3,000 USD or 4,000 Sing dollars amplifier versus a $200 Sing dollars IEM or 160 USD IEM. To spend 20 times the price to bring this to the next level is probably not worth it. It's probably better to spend more money on the IEM and then get no amplifier. I think Apple dongle is still probably okay. Yeah, just spend the $4,000 on a better IEM will be a better deal. Unless you are like me, you have headphones, you have earphones, then you may still buy the IEM. Then I'll say yes, bring the IEM and use it. As a portable amp, this will bring the Talos to the next level. This will bring the Talos to what I feel as a $1,000 IEM today. So that's the difference. But to spend $4,000 on it so that you can power this, no go. You do not do that. It's a waste of money. This Apple dongle is still your best bet. So overall, the Dunu Talos is an IEM that is worth buying. I mean, I bought it at a really cheap price, but even then, ignoring the special discount, this is still one of the more affordable IEMs. And if you are a treble head, you can always activate the switch. But if you're not a treble head, it does give you a very nice neutral bright tone that is very natural, and it's a tonality I love, especially as a headphone user, because I use a lot of planar magnetic headphones, and this is the closest to them. And I do prefer the sound signature over the more V-shaped IEM sound signature today you get in the market. So if you are into that type of sound signature, the more neutral with, I'll say as more control but slightly bright, very similar to planar magnetic headphones like Aria Organic, this is the IEM for you. Now, if you are into traditional IEM tuning, I think this is very boring because it's not exciting, it's not warm, the bass is quite weak on it compared to those IEMs. So, just note that this is probably not for the usual IEM users, but definitely for those people who transit from planar magnetic headphones to IEMs, this is a very nice choice. That's about it for today. I hope you enjoy my short little review on the Dunu Talos, and I'll bring you another review soon. So I said I went to China and buy a lot of earphones. So this is the SimGod EA1000. I think you have saw the S12 Pro, and I also bought the Wuzetian. All of them are like 20-30% cheaper than the international price, and definitely 20-30% cheaper than what I can purchase in Singapore too. So look out for them in the future, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.